welcome back to my channel, and it's by Lizzie. I am a vegan knitter from New Hampshire, and today I am very excited to share with you some inspiration for holiday knitting season now that it is November. And my goal of this video really is just inspiration. And so what I'm gonna do today is go over a bunch of ideas of different things that you could knit to get you into the holiday spirit, or to knit as gifts, or to knit as decorations, or any sort of holiday themed knitting venture. And so I'm gonna go over 50 patterns today, but I'm not gonna go into any of those patterns in a bunch of depth. I will put a few details here on the screen as I go over each pattern, but I'm not going to really dive into the details so that we can go over 50 patterns, because like I said, this is really just inspiration. So what I've done, in case you would like to knit one of these patterns or one of these types of patterns, is that I have created a Ravelry bundle of holiday knitting patterns that I'm going to discuss today, and I have that Ravelry bundle linked in the description. And so again, because there are 50 patterns I'm going to talk about today, I'm not going to link each individual pattern because that would just be too many. Instead, I'm just going to link that Ravelry bundle. So if you want to knit any of the patterns we talk about today, go ahead and check out my Ravelry, Knits by Lizzie, and you can go to that Ravelry bundle, which I'm just going to have directly linked in the description box below. The three broad categories of patterns I'm going to discuss today are some holiday home goods or decor that you could knit, and then some Christmas themed sweaters or holiday themed sweaters that you could knit for yourself, and then also some gift knits of different types that you could knit for your friends and family. So let's go ahead and start with some holiday decorations or home goods. The first type of home decor that you could knit for this holiday season that I had so much fun researching is ornaments, knit ornaments. And these I have listed under this home decor section, but honestly they'd be really good gift knits too. If you had someone in your life who really loves Christmas or really loves decorating their home, you could knit a few of these as a gift, and I think that would be a really lovely gift. Or you could knit just one and have it as like a stocking stuffer or something. Would be super duper cute. And I just really love the idea of a handmade ornament. I don't have any sort of handmade Christmas decorations in my own home, and this year I really would like to get into it. And so I wanted to share with you guys a few examples of really adorable ornaments that I found on Ravelry that you could check out. And this, I think, is the section that I have the most examples for, because there was just so many cute ones, and there are several of them that are free as well, which is really great. So I'm gonna consult my laptop here where I've got my list, but here are just a few ornaments that you could knit this holiday season, and I've separated them into two groups, which is more classic looking ornaments, and then some, I would say, more non-traditional ornaments, but that I think are still really cute. So under the traditional style of ornaments, there's this pattern called Scrappy Ornament, which is a just multicolored ball, and I think that really mimics, again, like a really classic ornament that you would see out of glass or ceramic on a Christmas tree. There's another pattern called Brady the Snowman ornament, which is this cute little knit snowman, and there are some cables on this snowman, I think, to give it some nice texture to look like the snow, but I also think would make it a really fun knit, really like engaging knit to make. There is also the classic Christmas Caramel, which is a pattern by Petite Knit, which is a free pattern. And this pattern isn't specifically labeled as an ornament, but I think you could really easily just attach a string to, a piece of yarn to the middle of it or one end, and then make it an ornament. And it would be a really quick knit. There are also some ornament patterns that really lean into the very classic Christmas look, such as the All Too Well stocking, which is a tiny little stocking that you could use as an ornament, or the Hig Wreath ornament, or Hig Wreath ornament, which is these really cute tiny little wreaths that looks like it's basically just an I-cord that you form into a circle, which would be super duper quick. These would be such a great gift knit type of ornament because they would be so quick, but I think would really have a nice impact and a nice festive look. And there is also in this classic category several different patterns for tiny little sweaters that you can make for ornaments. And one I have listened to here is just the name of the pattern is Christmas Sweater Ornament. And I've actually seen on Marlene Knits podcast is that she has used these tiny little sweater patterns as a sort of promise keeper if you want to give a gift of a hand knit like whole sweater to someone, but you don't have the time in the moment or don't want the pressure of a timeline for knitting that sweater for someone, is that you can gift them this little promise keeper and say, like, in the coming year I'm gonna knit you this sweater. And I think that is such an excellent idea of hers in order to take some pressure off of yourself but still be able to give the gift of a hand knit whole garment to someone. So the Christmas Sweater Ornament patterns are good for ornaments themselves, but again, also as those like promise keepers, which is an excellent idea. Also on Ravelry, there are lots of patterns for less traditional ornaments that are just so freaking adorable. I really want to try them out this year. One of them in particular is called the Snowy Owl Ornament, which is just this tiny little knit owl, which is so freaking adorable. There also is some patterns for this charming mushroom ornament to make these tiny little mushrooms that really remind me of the mushrooms from Mario, which I think are just so cute. And if you wanted to keep going with this theme of sort of like outdoorsy, like if you wanted your whole Christmas tree to be like this outdoorsy theme, you also could make another one of these ornaments patterns called the Snowy Mountain Ornament, which is these tiny little triangle mountains, which would probably be super quick to knit, but I think are just so adorable, and I really like the aesthetic of them. I am so tempted to make one of these. And you could top it off with some of these moon and star Christmas ornaments, which is, as it says, just a pattern to make these tiny little crescent-shaped moons and some stars, and you could really play around with different colors for these to give a different vibe depending on what colors you chose. And finally, in our non-traditional type of ornament, there are some holiday gnome ornaments, which is basically like these really big hats for the gnomes, and then you can attach a beard to the end of the hat, and then it looks like those cute little holiday gnomes. And I actually have for my own home this metal-based red Santa-looking gnome that I put out right outside my door during Christmas time, and it's a little Santa Christmas gnome to like welcome people to my home at Christmas. It's one of the few outdoor Christmas decorations I have, and so it would be really fun to kind of match, for me to match that. But these tiny little gnome ornaments are so freaking adorable. So those are just a few examples that I found when I was looking, but there are seriously like dozens and dozens of tiny little ornament patterns on Ravelry, so you could really just have a ball making a bunch of different types of ornaments if you wanted to use that as a way to get into the festive season. Another home decor item that you could knit yourself this Christmas would be some stockings, and just like ornaments, there is actually quite a few stocking patterns on Ravelry, and some of them are free. Some of them are not because they are more elaborate, but there is a mix of these types of patterns on Ravelry, and a lot of them are quite traditional. So there is this pattern called Harvey Christmas Stocking, where it is just some stripes and then an option to put the name of whoever you're knitting the stocking for. There is a white-green snowflake stocking pattern, which is featuring this snowflake motif, and again an option to put a name on the stocking. There is the Yuletide monogram stocking, which is a all-over colorwork design, really beautiful, intricate design, and then just the first initial for the person that you're knitting the stocking for rather than the whole name. If you wanted some color work but weren't interested in having specific names on each of your stockings, there are tons of patterns for that as well. Some examples I found are the Tannenbaum stocking, which is a bunch of tree motifs all over the stocking for Tannenbaum, and that one I really like. There is also this pattern called Fair Owl stocking, which is a bunch of different color work block motifs, which I think would be super engaging because you'd be changing up the pattern repeat all the time, which would just keep it really, really interesting as you were going along knitting the stocking. And then there are also some patterns on Ravelry that are not just color work. For example, there's this Owls in the Forest stocking, which is a mixture of color work and cables, and they actually use cables to make the owl design. And so this stocking actually has like a 3D owl coming out of it. It is really, really incredible. And there is this other pattern called, just labeled as Christmas stocking, but it is all over cables across the entire stocking, which is just absolutely gorgeous. And in my research on looking at these different stockings, I actually found that there was a particular designer who specialized in Christmas stocking patterns. And so if you wanted to browse several at the same time, you could look at this designer called Stocking Craft, because she had like 15 different stocking pattern designs. And so that would be a really great thing to sift through if you're interested in making a hand knit stocking this year. If you are feeling really ambitious, one idea I had for a hand knit decor item for Christmas this year was a tree skirt. Depending on the gauge, there might be enough time for someone to make a tree skirt this year, but this also could be an idea to work on throughout the year for next Christmas. And just a few patterns that I came across to give you some inspiration are some cable-based tree skirts, such as the cable tree skirt, which looks to be a fairly chunky gauge, or the cherry cordial tree skirt. The cherry cordial tree skirt looked to be a little bit more intricate cable design, which was really, really beautiful, and the cable tree skirt pattern seemed to be a lot more straightforward, where it's mainly knits or purls and then just really predominant cables going through, compared to the cherry cordial tree skirt, which again had some smaller cables but more intricate design on them. And then there is also several different patterns on Ravelry for some colorwork based tree skirt designs. One of them that I thought was very cute was this Santa's coat tree skirt, where the colorwork is used to make it look like Santa's coat, where it's all red and then there's this big buckle in the middle, and it's lined by this fluffy yarn at the end, just very classic Santa's coat. So I think that would be a really fun project to work on as well. And finally, for my home decor ideas, I also think it would be really fun to make some bows, and this would be something that could be, depending on your color choices, really festive, or something that you could use during Christmas, but then also could make use of other times during the year. And this would definitely be something that would be really quick and easy to make if you didn't feel like knitting an entire tree skirt for the holidays this year. A few bow patterns on Ravelry is the December bow by Petite Knit, which is a really classic, pretty chunky hair tie based bow, but you could very easily use this in addition to being for your hair. You could make this into an ornament, or you could put, especially if you made it in like a red color, you could just put these bows like all over your house or on a wreath or something. In a very similar vein, there is a bow pattern called Bow Wow, as well as a bow pattern by St. Augustines called Augustine number 22, which are a very similar look as the December bow by Petite Knit. And then another bow pattern that I think is extremely festive is the Petite Knit pattern, the Holly bow, which this is it's called a bow pattern because you knit these holly looking leaves and then attach them to a satin bow, but you could make these the holly part of this of the holly bow, and you could put these little hollies all over your home. If you could make them in a green color, or you could make them into red and green, and I think they would be really cute, again, as ornaments or just as decoration in your hair or anywhere, really. Another category of things you could knit this holiday season, which I have absolutely loved doing this past year and last year, is to knit a holiday sweater for myself. In honor of today's video, I'm wearing my holiday sweater from last year, which is the Holly sweater by Pernille Larsen, and knitting this and also the current one I'm working on has absolutely brought me so much joy. So I highly recommend knitting yourself a holiday sweater or a Christmas sweater to wear throughout December. And so I want to just go over just a few patterns to give you some inspiration if you were interested in making a holiday sweater for yourself. So of course there is this pattern, which is again the Holly sweater by Pernilla Larson, which I had absolute blast knitting. I highly recommend it. Another sweater from Pernilla Larson, which is the designer for Knitting for Olive, that came out this year, is the snow sweater, which kind of like this Holly sweater, it is mainly just one color, but then has a little bit of color work. Instead of having color work in the yoke, like this sweater, the snow sweater has color work for the adult pattern. It's just in these big bell, would you call them balloon sleeves or bell bottom sleeves, and then the kids pattern that are also available has the color work down towards the bottom. But of course, if you wanted the color work of the snow sweater at the bottom of your sweater instead of on the sleeves, I'm sure you could just take the chart and kind of just work the chart at the bottom of your sweater instead of working the chart at your sleeves. I think there's been a few people on throughout the Ravelry projects that have done that, which I think is a really great idea. So I have a feeling that the snow sweater is just as fun to knit as this Holly sweater that I made. There are many other Christmas sweater patterns on Ravelry, though, just again to give you a few inspirations. If you wanted to knit a Christmas sweater but didn't want it to be very in your face, there is this pattern I found called Minimal Xmas Sweater, which is a complete blank, just like regular sweater, except this tiny little tree right in the front, and it almost looks like a logo or something, and it's, or those sweaters that kind of have like the cross right here, or like the triangle right here. So it's really a good way to bring a little bit of festiveness into your life, but not be like screaming it out loud. However, if you did want to scream it out loud, there are other color work patterns for that, such as the Christmas time sweater, which is a sweater that has primarily in the yoke, these different stripes of Christmas themed motifs. So this one has trees and little Santas and little snowmen and some hearts. And of a very similar vein, there's also the Northern Augustine's number 6 sweater, which is another situation where you've got stripes of different motifs. This one has many little tiny motifs. There's some bows in there, some little presents, some hollies, and some Christmas trees. So you could really have a lot of fun going through lots of different motifs, and it would definitely be a yoke that you would not be getting bored in for sure. Some sweater patterns that have a little bit of larger Christmas motifs on them is the Rudolph pattern, which has most prominent motif is a reindeer, why it's named the Rudolph sweater, but there's also some Christmas tree motifs in that design as well. And the Festive yoke pullover is a all over colorwork design instead of just being mainly in the yoke, where you have some repeating motifs of some full reindeer and some snowflakes and some trees. And I also found a sweater pattern that is both a pullover or a cardigan if you want to steek it, and that would be the Christmas happiness sweater, which like many of these other patterns is a bunch of stripes of different motifs. So this one has some wreaths and some Santas and some Christmas trees, but I really liked the idea of a colorwork cardigan instead of all of these pullovers, because I hadn't seen that as much, but I think it would be just as wearable or even more wearable than the full-on Christmas sweater. So those are just a few ideas to get you started on thinking about what Christmas sweaters you could make, and I have found it is a really great way to get yourself like in the spirit of Christmas, and then it is so much fun to wear a Christmas sweater that you made yourself throughout the holiday season. I really loved doing that last year. The final category of festive things to knit this year would be, I suppose, the most obvious, which is gift knits, things that you can knit for other people that you could give away as gifts. There's a couple different general ideas I had here. You could make someone a sweater but use a large gauge so that you don't have to use that much yarn and so that it goes by fairly quickly. You could also make an accessory for someone that you love, again because it would be not quite as much knitting time and so easy to accomplish within the festive season. Or if you are knitting for a child, you could make a child-sized sweater, or I was thinking that it would be really fun to make a knit stuffed animal. So I've got some pattern ideas for that as well. So first, the large gauge sweater ideas. The most popular would be the doppio sweater pattern or the lento sweater pattern. And so these patterns are both 15 stitches per 10 centimeters, but require not that much yarn because they are intended to be knit on a pretty loose gauge. And so you're using either a fingering or a DK weight yarn at that really big 15 stitch gauge. And so this is something that you can use some really special yarn for someone in your life, and it won't take you as much time as knitting a regular fingering weight or a DK weight sweater, just because each stitch is going to bring you that much farther. So I think that even with it being almost mid-November now, there's probably enough time to make a lento or a doppio sweater for someone that you love this Christmas as a gift to give them. If you don't feel up to knitting a sweater for someone, there are also many accessories you can make them. For example, you can knit them a hat. One of the most popular hat designs is the Oslo hat by Petite Knit and the Musselburgh hat, as well as the classic ribbed hat, which is a free pattern by Pearl Soho. The Oslo hat by Petite Knit is a DK weight gauge, I believe, whereas the Musselburgh hat is one that you can actually knit in many different gauges, and part of the appeal of that pattern is that you determine what your gauge is partway through to see what size you need to knit, and so you don't have to do a swatching or anything, and so it's one of those patterns that's really easy to just like all of a sudden cast on whenever you feel like it. So those would be three really popular, tried and tested hat patterns that you can make for someone this Christmas or holiday season. Another really fun accessory to make someone would be some DK weight socks. And I say DK weight because I have found that sometimes regular socks, even though they feel like a small thing, can take a while. Partly because you're knitting them, regular weight socks, you're knitting them on a finger weight, but then also because socks are knit at such teeny tiny little gauges and on such small needles that it can be a slower process than if you were knitting the same number of stitches on like a DK weight gauge, at least for me. Just I find that the feeling in my hands of working with like 4mm needles instead of like 2mm needles, I am much more efficient at the 4mm needles. And so socks, while I still think they're a great accessory, I think that for a gift knit, DK weight socks make a lot more sense because they are so much faster. And so there are some free DK weight patterns on Ravelry, such as the vanilla DK socks, which is a pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady. There is also the really classic pattern of the Sunday socks by Petite Knit, which is a ribbed sock pattern, and I have actually made those a couple times last Christmas as gift knits, and they were really well received and they went so quickly. I knit a pair of Sunday socks in a weekend, so those ones would be really good. There are also some DK weight socks patterns on Ravelry that have a little bit more to them than just ribbing or vanilla stockinette socks. So there is the Hibernal DK socks by Summerly Designs, as well as the Mountain Walk chunky socks by Florence Miller, and both of these socks patterns give a little bit of the appearance of ribbed, but instead they're actually like lace or mock cable texture pattern, which would give it a little bit more of entertainment for the knitter to knit, but then also I think they kind of elevate the end product a bit as well and feel a little bit I don't know, just like a little bit more when you're giving them as a gift instead of just like some basic socks. But they are still this DK weight, and so they would go, they would be a pretty quick pattern to knit. That would be, I think, with the time that there is left until Christmas, would definitely be doable. Another accessory that would be really fun to make for people this coming Christmas or holiday season would be some mittens. And there are all sorts of different types of mittens you can knit. Some of them would be a lot quicker than others, but if you really wanted to make some really elaborate mittens and take your time, there are patterns for that out there too. So on the easy side of the spectrum, there is a free pattern called the World's Simplest Mittens, which has a a pretty big gauge available, and I have made this one time several years ago, back in the beginning of my knitting journey, and I can say that they are quite easy to knit. They are aptly named as the world's simplest mittens, so those would be a really quick, again, like a weekend style project that you could make for someone if you really wanted to give a hand knit gift for someone, and also be a very useful item to whoever you're giving them to. Along those same lines, there is the classic penny glove pattern by Petite Knit, which is a pattern for fingerless gloves. And this pattern, while it does have a smaller gauge, like a fingering weight gauge, because they are fingerless and you're not making the thumb, the full thumb, or the full mitten that goes all the way around the hand, it is a very quick pattern. It's another one of these knit in a weekend kind of patterns, because there's really not that much that you actually have to knit, but you get a full product in the end that is a really usable product and really nice to gift someone. There are also some mitten patterns that are slightly larger gauges that have a bunch of these beautiful cable designs. Two of them that I found that I think are really, really gorgeous is the crown mittens, which has one prominent cable going down the bulk of the mitten, and then there's also the space between mittens, which has they're kind of like ribbed mittens, but then the ribbed kind of turns into cables and they overlap back and forth, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. And then, of course, if you really wanted to, again, get into really fun but intricate knitting, would be some all-over colorwork mittens. For example, the Alma mittens. These are an all-over colorwork mitten design, and you've got even different colorwork on the front of the mitten than the back of the mitten, as well as on the thumb. And so I think that these would be just an absolute beautiful gift to make for someone in your life this Christmas. The final bit of holiday knitting inspiration that I wanted to bring to you all today is some examples of some stuffed animals that you could make for people or children in your life this Christmas, which I absolutely love this idea, and I have never knit a non-garment thing before. I've never made a stuffed animal before, but I absolutely love the idea. I think it would be so cute and so fun. And so here are just a few ideas. There are a bunch of patterns on Ravelry that you could go through, but here are just a few. So there is, of course, the emotional support chicken, which I felt like I had to put on this list just because it's been such a popular pattern and so many people have knit it and had a lot of fun with it. So you can make one of these for someone in your life or a child that you know. There is also on the Christmas theme, this pattern name is Ice to Meet You, which is this cute little penguin that has some like a hat and scarf on, which is super duper adorable. So if you want it to be very, very holiday winter themed, you could make this penguin. Or if you wanted to make a stuffed animal that could be used all year round, there's this really cute bunny pattern called Bunny Odel, which also includes this some clothing on the bunny, and there is several patterns for other types of animals, such as this frog pattern, which actually seems to be fairly popular as well. And I think these different animals would be really good depending on what child you're knitting for. So if you know that a child in your life really likes amphibians or frogs or that sort of thing, you can make a frog. If you have a child in your life that really loves farming and farm animals, then you can make the emotional support chicken. And I think that these bunny patterns are really good for a younger child. So you could really have a lot of fun with knitting these different stuffed animals and also making little clothes for the stuffed animals as well. Like you could make these Christmas sweater ornament patterns. You could use that as a base pattern to make a teeny tiny little sweater, and then you could gift one of these animals and then make a bunch of different sweaters to go with it. Like you could gift a wardrobe for the stuffed animal too. That would be so fun. And actually I think that's a few of these ornament patterns would also work well with stuffed animals. For example, the snowy owl ornament looks so cute and squishy and would be a great stuffed animal to play with for a kid. And so if if you make the snowy owl ornament but not put on the actual string to put it on the tree, then it's not an ornament anymore, and now it's a cute little snowy owl for that would be good to gift for a child. So those are just a few ideas to get you started with for some stuffed animal knitting, but there are many, many more out there as well. So that's all I have for you today. I really hope that you are inspired to bring some handmade making into your holiday season this year. And if you are interested in making any of these specific patterns, I do have that Ravelry bundle linked in the description below, so you can get all the details on there. And a few of those patterns that I have gone over today are free, so you can download them and give them a look and see if they are up your alley. And we can all just have a lot of fun knitting this cozy season and really get into the holiday spirit. If you enjoyed this video and it did bring you some inspiration, I would really appreciate it if you'd give it a like to help it find more viewers like you. And if you would like some more knitting content from me, please feel free to subscribe so you don't miss another one of my videos. And so with that, I'm gonna sign off here and send lots of big hugs to everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye!